Let me tell you a story. It's about a man who repeats his childhood nightmare. This man grows up with this burning idea that he will never, ever repeat the mistakes of his parents. His mother and his father did not get along. His mother was scorned, and his father was reckless. And he was born out of their chaos, their dysfunctionality. And he grew up with this frustration towards his father, and this constant yearning for his mother's nurture and care. But his mother was emotionally not there. His father was never there. As a teenager, he never knew healthy love. He grew up in an environment of relationships that mimicked his parents. They were passionate, they were lustful, but they were never what he knew in his heart he wanted. True. It was always transactional, conditional. One partner wanted something else from the other. And when that person didn't get what they wanted, there was always a rift. Always resentment in the mix. Vindictive behavior, selfishness, sometimes abuse. So he grew up never knowing true love, never seeing it. And when he did see it in people, he didn't believe it. Yet his heart was always mesmerized by the couple that would pass by in the street, and he just knew they were so in love. They were so in love, and he would smile and he would feel these tears of release that were so healing, and yet he was still living in that nightmare of his parents. His mother and father just didn't like each other, but they would try to like each other for their son. So growing up into a young man, he became passionate about love, finding love, but he had no idea about relationships. He had no idea how to give or receive. All he knew was transactional, conditional lust. And even volatile partnerships that were continually full of resentment. And he never understood why. Why is he repeating the mistakes of his parents? He never understood the relationships in his life never being fulfilling, never being made of love. And he became very angry. After the age of 25, he became very angry about love. Reckless. After a few relationships that were disappointing and devastating, where he was betrayed, and it just didn't feel right, and always ended in this grief, this unresolved feeling of just breaking up with someone and never talking to them again, and in this hurtful way of almost A relationship that ends in this pain. Became angry. And he decided if he can't beat this curse that he thought he had, then he would just give up. So he gave up on love. And he continued his career, putting all his efforts in becoming this excellent person, this wealthy person, this established person, this accomplished person. And it was fulfilling, and it was exciting and thrilling, and it just made him so proud of himself, and it helped him to let go or forget about his childhood fears and nightmare. But the nightmare was still there in the back of his mind, because whenever he would go to bed in the wee hours of night, he would have feelings of love, the feeling of having true love. And he would try to suppress it with alcohol. So he would spend his nights up late at 2 a.m., 5 a.m. drinking just to suppress that feeling of true love. Because he knew he couldn't ever believe in it again, because it would fill him with so much sadness, because he thought he could never have it. So as he became more accomplished in his career, he became this recognized person. He began to move further and further away from that feeling, to the point where he could stay up late at night and he could not even think about love. Like, he wouldn't even have the thought of it. Even to the point where he could have relationships with people with no love, and he wouldn't be bothered by it. It became normal to him. But then something happened that changed everything for him. He was living years. It was 5 years without that feeling of love, without that childhood fear, that childhood nightmare creeping up in the middle of the night. And he had these relationships that he thought was satisfying. They were transactional, conditional, but he didn't really care, because he didn't believe in love. He was just in it for the win, for the gain, for the taking, for the pleasing of himself. And what devastated him is when he repeated what his parents did. One night, I suppose he went too far. And many nights later, he got a message that a woman that he does not love at all, does not even care for, not even as a friend, is carrying his child. This broke him to the core. A man who thought that he was escaping his childhood nightmare was creating his childhood nightmare by having a relationship of no love in a child who will experience what he experienced. And this turned him cold, very cold as a man. He didn't know if he should be revengeful towards himself, towards the woman, towards his parents, towards society, or if he should just give up in a completely different level where you totally remove love from your existence, which is dangerous to do. Because when you remove love from your entire existence, you become full of darkness. There's a void, emptiness inside of you. He tried his best to, I suppose, do what his parents did. Fall in love with a woman that he has no connection to. Try to make it better. Try to be a better man. Try to be what his father was not. Try to give his child the life that he never had as a child. Functional relationship. But he couldn't fake it. He couldn't. There was no love in his heart. Even though the woman was beautiful and she was caring, he had no love in his heart, and he knew that was not his true love. He just knew it because their relationship was never something that touched him deep inside. It never was giving him that spark. It was just for the ride. And he went on years to see his child grow up, giving the child everything the world. Yet the love inside of him burned even deeper. His wanting for true love became even stronger, and it made him even more sad because he felt it yet again that he couldn't have it. He didn't believe in it until he met a woman. Not just any woman. He met his true love, but he was not ready for her, and he was denying her and full of so much doubt. He could not believe it, so he turned away. But this woman, like an angel, she came to him like a prayer, and he could feel it inside of himself. So one day, he decided to see if he could change. A man who never changed in his life. Not for anyone, not even for himself. But he thought maybe for her. Maybe he will change for her. And he asked himself, why would I do that for someone? I've never really believed in someone, especially a woman, my whole life. But he wanted to change for her because he wanted to prove to her that he could be like her, that he could be this heart that is free. She was so free to him, and he was so confined and shy and alone, hiding. And as she became his friend, he began to sense what love is from a completely changed place. He saw that love is forgiveness. He saw that love is a willingness to change for another, to change the way you are and think and believe. Love is accepting where you've been, what you've done, doing your best to free yourself and the persons that live inside of your heart. So this is the story of a man of no love, of great regret, finding his way back to love after so much time, nearly hating himself for repeating the mistakes of his parents and for creating his childhood nightmare for his own child, and how he found forgiveness to change everything about the story of his childhood, the story of his child, and the story of his future children through the eyes of his true love, the woman that he meets in the worst of himself, a woman he meets like a prayer sent out long ago to God, prayer answered to help him understand that true love was always there. He just simply needed to change his perspective, change his idea of himself, and grow beyond his fears and nightmares. And once he overcame those fears and nightmares, through the change in him, subtle, slow, yet all too powerful, he began to see the whole time this true love was always there, like a whisper, like a gentle voice, trying to reach him, trying to get him to see what he could not in his nightmare. But now he sees, now he knows. He didn't have to take a path he took, but he took it anyways, because he wanted to experience what it's like to be so far from love, to know its total absence, so that you can one day find its total presence and know what it's like to have compassion, forgiveness for those who are totally lost to the absence of love, so that maybe one's own change can be enough to bring those who are still living in the nightmare back into forgiveness for themselves and for those deeply buried within their own heart. So I suppose he carried all the wounds and scars and pains of all the people he's met when he was reckless, lustful, all the relationship he's seen and all the unhappiness or the absence of love. He's carried all the pain of these different people. And the moment of his change was like a moment of change for all the people that he was carrying in his heart. That unforgiveness, or that disbelief, for all that pain. It was though he was chosen by all the people of his life. To be the one that breaks free for everyone's sake. And it's his woman, his true love, that brought him the epiphany, the bigger picture, the recognition to everything and why he went through everything, and the deeper meaning for it all. True love will give you deeper meaning. Love will show you things about yourself that you've never imagined, both positive, negative, so that you can see with the eyes open and see love in everything and everyone. Even in the absence of love, of people and relationships, you can see there's always a version of love, a part of love living on that just simply needs to be awakened, needs to be true again.